It hits the palace like a siren no one is allowed to hear. One phrase spreads through the corridors in a whisper that sounds like a warning. Return the letters. Not tomorrow. Not after the advisors meet. Now. Because the late Queen's personal letters, her private thoughts, her final warnings have become the most dangerous object in the monarchy. And when Prince Rowan and Duchess Sophia confront the king, it isn't a family disagreement, it's a battle over legacy, truth and power. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. The first sign of trouble isn't shouting, it's movement. Aides scrambling with faces too neutral to be innocent. Calls cut short mid-sentence as if someone has entered the room and the truth can't breathe anymore. Doors closing for privacy, which is palace language for containment. The corridors feel tighter, the air heavier, because everyone understands what return the letters implies. Something sacred has been taken, and someone powerful is refusing to give it back. In a normal family, that would be theft. In a royal family, it becomes a constitutional crisis disguised as grief. Those letters are not ordinary paper. They are the late Queen's private voice, her unfiltered thoughts, her final warnings, her personal judgments written without press handlers, without advisors, without the softening filter of public duty. They contain the kind of truth that can't be edited once it escapes. And that's why they have mythic value inside the palace. Not because of sentiment alone, but because handwriting is evidence. A signature is authority. A sealed envelope is leverage. History is not just written by the victors in this world, it's written by the people who control the archives. And whoever holds those letters holds a weapon no crown should have to fear. Prince Rowan is not just angry. He's shaken in the way heirs get shaken when they realize the institution can hide things from them, even things that belong to their own family's dead. Rowan has spent his life learning how to carry tradition without looking burdened by it. But this is different. The letters feel like the Queen's final presence, and the idea that someone is sitting on her words, deciding when, if ever, they can be seen, makes Rowan feel as if the monarchy is being tampered with from the inside. His grief hardens into purpose, because grief is the only thing that makes him unmanageable. Duchess Sofia is the surprise force at his side, and that alliance is what truly frightens the old guard. Sofia isn't a headline hunter, she isn't impulsive. She's disciplined, respected, and terrifyingly precise, someone the palace has always relied on to keep order when emotions threaten to spill. If she's standing with Rowan, it means this isn't youthful outrage. It's a serious accusation dressed as a demand. Sofia's loyalty has always been to the institution. Yes, but deeper than that, it has been to the late Queen's intent. And intent matters more than tradition, when tradition starts looking like a cover. King Cedric's resistance is what makes the entire palace tremble. If he simply didn't know where the letters were, he could say so. If he believed in returning them, he would. But he doesn't. He hesitates, delays, deflects. And in the palace, hesitation is never neutral. His resistance suggests fear of exposure, or fear of losing control, or fear that the letters contain something that could fracture the story the monarchy has been trying to preserve since the Queen's passing. Cedric speaks in careful words about privacy and dignity, but Rowan hears the truth underneath. The king is guarding something, and it isn't only the Queen's memory. That's where the factions come alive. The old guard insists the crown must be protected from destabilizing personal materials. The reformers insist the Queen must be honored, and honoring her means not letting her final voice be imprisoned by politics. Protect the crown becomes a slogan that sounds noble until you realize it can be used to justify almost anything. Honor the Queen becomes a battle cry that sounds righteous until you realize it can ignite a civil war inside the household. And between those two camps stands Rowan, whose future depends on how the past is allowed to speak. The emotional core of it all is cruel. Grief becomes currency. The Queen's death, instead of uniting the family, becomes the most valuable political tool in the palace. Every tear is interpreted. Every memory is negotiated. Even silence becomes a strategy. Rowan feels it, Sophia sees it, and Cedric is trapped in it because if the letters come out, the monarchy loses control of the narrative. But if the letters stay hidden, the monarchy loses something even worse, legitimacy in the eyes of its own heirs. Then the cliffhanger drops like a stone. A sealed envelope is missing, and everyone knows which one. Not because it's labelled loudly, but because absence has a shape, and in a palace the right people always know what's supposed to be where. A missing letter doesn't just raise questions, it screams intent. It means someone didn't just hold the Queen's words, someone selected which words would survive. And once the palace realizes one letter is missing, the question stops being "where are they?" and becomes who would risk everything to keep the Queen's words buried. Personal letters are supposed to be private. But in a monarchy, privacy is never just privacy, it's control. Every line the Queen wrote can redefine loyalties, expose betrayals, or crown a new truth the palace can't spin. That's why these letters were never meant to circulate. And that's why Sofia's hands shake when she describes what she's seen. The Queen didn't just write memories, she wrote instructions. In the palace, memory power is treated like a force of nature. The late monarch may be gone, but her voice can still govern the living if her words survive intact. That's what makes these letters terrifying. They don't just remember, they command. A dead queen's handwriting carries a kind of moral authority no advisor can outtalk, no public statement can dilute. Because when the Queen's private voice contradicts the palace's public story, the public story starts to look like theatre. And theatre is fragile. One private sentence from a revered monarch can outvote tradition, outvote strategy, even outvote the king's comfort, because it rewires what people believe is right. Sophia understands this better than anyone, which is why her loyalty has always been complicated. She is disciplined, steady, the sort of royal the institution trusts to hold the line when everyone else loses control. Yet her deepest loyalty is not to whoever sits on the throne today, it's to the Queen's intent. Sophia speaks of the Queen with reverence that feels almost dangerous, because reverence can become rebellion when the current reign tries to edit the past. She describes the letters like she's describing living things, sealed, deliberate, arranged with purpose. Not love notes, not nostalgic reflections, instructions, warnings, contingency plans. The Queen anticipated fractures, and she wrote as if she knew exactly where the cracks would appear. That's where the divide between public and private becomes a battlefield. The official archives are tidy, sanitized, curated for history books and national comfort. They contain the story the institution approves. But this personal cache kept separate, guarded differently, contains the story the Queen wrote when she wasn't performing. That's why it's forbidden. Because a personal cache doesn't care about the institution's timing. It doesn't care about optics. It doesn't care about stability. It tells the truth the way the Queen wanted it told, and that truth might be inconvenient to the people now asking the nation to trust them. Rowan feels the weight of that difference like a threat against his future. He isn't just afraid of what the letters say. He's afraid of what it means that they were hidden at all. Because if the Queen's legacy can be rewritten with a locked box and a few strategic delays, then any legacy can be rewritten. Even his. Especially his. He realizes the monarchy doesn't simply inherit crowns, it inherits narratives, and narratives can be manipulated. That's why the missing envelope matters so much. It suggests selection. It suggests someone decided which parts of the Queen would survive and which parts would be erased. Then the twist arrives, sharp enough to make Sophia's voice tighten. One letter references an emergency protocol no one admits exists. Not a dramatic plot device written for excitement, something formal, something codified. something the Queen believed could be necessary if the institution crossed a certain line. Sophia doesn't quote it directly, but the implication is clear. The Queen expected internal threat scenarios, not just external ones. She wrote procedures for what to do if power turned inward, if the palace became a machine protecting itself at the expense of truth. And if that protocol exists, it means the Queen feared her own household as much as she feared the world outside its gates. Sophia's hands shake because she knows what that protocol would do if it were ever activated. It would force decisions. It would expose names. It would pull the curtain back on things the palace survives by keeping dim. She admits she hasn't shown Rowan everything yet, not because she wants control, but because she knows the letters are explosive, and once they enter Rowan's hands, there's no going back. Rowan doesn't beg. He doesn't plead. He simply asks for the truth the way heirs ask for air, steady, necessary, and increasingly impossible to deny. And then Sophia reveals the detail that makes Rowan's blood run cold. One letter is addressed to him sealed, never delivered. Not a general instruction. Not an archived note. A personal message written to the heir and intercepted before it could reach him. Sophia doesn't have to say who took it. She doesn't have to say when. The fact that it never arrived is the accusation. Because a letter to Rowan isn't just correspondence, it's the Queen reaching into the future to shape the next reign. And someone stopped it. Because if the Queen wrote to Rowan and it was never delivered, someone intercepted the future on purpose. Kings don't cling to paper unless paper can burn them. Cedric claims he's protecting the Queen's dignity, but Rowan hears the lie inside the comfort. Because the longer Cedric delays, the clearer it becomes. The letters aren't being guarded for privacy. They're being guarded for leverage. And Rowan realizes the Crown's most terrifying truth, sometimes the biggest threat to an heir, is not an enemy outside the palace. It's fear inside the throne. Cedric's reasons sound polished enough to soothe a nation. Privacy. Tradition. National stability. He speaks like a man trying to honor the dead, careful to frame the letters as sacred and therefore untouchable. But Rowan has spent his entire life listening to palace language, and he recognizes the trick. Privacy can mean protection, or it can mean concealment. Tradition can mean respect, or it can mean control. Stability can mean peace, or it can mean silence. Rowan watches his father delay and delay again, and the delays feel less like caution and more like calculation. The king isn't acting like someone safeguarding dignity. He's acting like someone guarding a weapon. Rowan's suspicion sharpens into something colder. Someone is using the letters to control him. Not with open threats, with uncertainty, with the implied danger of what might be inside, with the possibility that a letter could define him before he defines himself. The late Queen's private words are the one authority no advisor can out-argue. If those words are released at the wrong moment or selectively, or with edits, Rowan could be framed as unworthy, reckless, or unready without ever being given a chance to respond. The idea that his future could be manipulated by ink on paper makes him furious in a way he can't show. Because anger in an heir is treated like weakness, and the palace would love nothing more than to paint him as emotionally unstable. Sophia, meanwhile, notices what the palace's polite explanations can't hide: inconsistencies in Cedric's timeline of custody. The dates don't line up cleanly. The chain of possession is too vague. A detail changes depending on who asks. And Cedric, who usually remembers protocol with perfect clarity, suddenly forgets specifics that matter most. Sophia doesn't accuse him directly, she doesn't have to. Her quiet questions are enough to make the room feel dangerous. Because if the king can't explain where the letters have been, then the letters have been somewhere they shouldn't. And if they've been somewhere they shouldn't, then someone has had access. That's where grief turns into a weapon between father and son. Rowan isn't just demanding paper. He's demanding a right. The right to receive the late Queen's voice without interference. Cedric isn't just protecting privacy. He's protecting his reign from a document that could undermine him. Their conversations become colder, sharper, filled with careful phrases that sound respectful while carrying threat underneath. Rowan feels the ache of it, wanting to love his father, needing to challenge him. Cedric feels it too, wanting to remain king, fearing what the queen might have left behind for the next king. In this palace, grief doesn't soften people, it hardens positions. Then the twist arrives in human form. The king's fixer appears. Not a villain with a cape, something far more realistic and far more chilling. The person who speaks in soothing tones about process and proper handling. The person who always shows up when a situation needs to be contained, managed and minimized. Their presence makes one thing clear. This isn't a private family dispute anymore. It's institutional. It's being handled as a threat. And if the fixer is involved, then the palace is already preparing for worst-case outcomes, legal strategies, narrative strategies, ways to isolate Rowan and Sophia if they keep pushing. Rowan hits the moral fork that every heir eventually faces: protect family peace or expose the truth publicly. If he protects peace, he may never get the letters unaltered. If he exposes the truth, he could detonate his father's reign and fracture the monarchy in a way the public never forgives. He wants to believe there's a third option: quiet resolution, dignified return, but the palace has taught him a brutal lesson. When something is being hidden, quiet resolution usually means quiet surrender. And then the whisper comes, delivered the way palace whispers always arrive, like a knife wrapped in velvet. The letters were catalogued, then altered. Rowan feels his pulse spike. Catalogued means official. Altered means criminal in spirit, even if not in law. Altered means the Queen's voice has been touched by living hands. And if living hands edited the dead monarch's words, then nothing in the institution is sacred, not even grief. They call it the institution, but it's really a network: advisors, press handlers, lawyers, and legacy power brokers who survive every reign. The moment Rowan pushes for the letters, the Shadow Court doesn't ask what's right. It asks what's controllable. Leaks start. Smears start. Anonymous sources appear overnight, because if the Queen's letters surface, the palace won't just lose privacy, it will lose the ability to choose what history remembers. The Shadow Court moves with the speed of people who prepared for this scenario long before Rowan ever raised his voice. Narrative control activates first soft leaks designed to make Rowan seem reckless, impatient, destabilizing. Legal pressure follows quiet reminders about confidential materials, subtle threats about repercussions for mishandling. Security enforcement appears next: access tightened, meetings delayed, routes changed, so Rowan has to fight for every inch of information. And through it all, the palace maintains the illusion of calm, because chaos is always managed best when the public never sees the hands doing the managing. Soft leaks do what official statements can't. They plant doubt without offering anything concrete to deny. They suggest Rowan is grief-driven and therefore irrational. They hint Sofia is overstepping and therefore emotional. They frame the demand to return the letters as dangerous, because danger justifies control. The old guard repeats the word destabilizing like a spell, hoping it sticks to Rowan's skin. And it starts to, because the public doesn't see the missing envelope. It doesn't see the altered catalogue. It sees a prince pressuring a grieving king. That's how the machine works. It replaces the real story with the easier one. Then comes the twist Rowan can feel but can't prove. A senior royal quietly benefits if Rowan looks unfit. Not necessarily because they want his crown, but because weakening his credibility strengthens their influence. In a monarchy, perception is power. If Rowan can be framed as impulsive, someone else becomes the steady hand by default. And the Shadow Court loves default outcomes, because default outcomes keep the system predictable. Rowan realizes the fight over letters is also a fight over his image, over whether he will be seen as the heir who honors the Queen, or the heir who destabilizes the realm. Cedric feels the trap too, and it breaks something in him privately. He is being pulled by a machine he once controlled, urged toward decisions that protect the institution even if they hurt his son. He looks less like a king and more like a man trapped inside the crown, forced to choose between fatherhood and control. And that's when the Shadow Court makes its ultimatum, quietly, mercilessly. If those letters leave the palace, we end this alliance. Not we disagree. Not we caution. End. As in reputations. Access. Futures. And if a letter was altered, the monarchy isn't protecting the queen, it's rewriting her. And when the palace threatens to end the alliance, Rowan realizes they fear Sophia more than they fear him. Sophia doesn't raise her voice. She doesn't need to. Her calm is the kind that terrifies rooms full of powerful men. She tells Cedric the sentence no one else dares to say. The Queen's words are not yours. And for the first time, the king looks less like a monarch and more like a man caught holding stolen fire. Because Sophia isn't asking for a favor, she's demanding the return of something sacred. She comes armed with specifics, not outrage. Custody dates that don't match Cedric's version. Missing seals that should never be missing if the letters were handled properly. Catalogue numbers that appear, disappear, then reappear as if someone tried to tidy a mess after the fact. Sophia lays the timeline down like evidence on a courtroom table, forcing the room to look at what it has been avoiding. Cedric tries plausible deniability, first the palace's favourite perfume. He says the letters were secured. He says they were protected. He says the Queen would have wanted discretion, but Sophia refuses the fog. She doesn't debate emotion, she debates facts, and facts don't care about royal tone. Rowan's support is the shock that makes the old guard go still. Because Rowan backing Sophia is not simply a family gesture, it's an heir aligning himself with truth over comfort. It's a public signal that he will not be managed through silence. The old guard wants Rowan to hesitate. They want him to be patient. They want him to be grateful. Instead, he stands beside Sophia with a steadiness that feels like a warning. If the Queen's voice is being held hostage, the future king will not tolerate it. That stance doesn't just challenge Cedric, it challenges everyone who has survived by keeping the heir dependent on whatever story the palace chooses to hand him. Cedric's response hardens. He implies consequences without naming them. Because named threats can be quoted. Access can be restricted. Roles can be reassigned. Funding can be redirected. The same administrative punishments the palace uses to discipline dissent without ever admitting it's punishing anyone. He speaks of duty like it's a shield, but Sophia hears the tremor beneath the shield. Fear. Fear that returning the letters will open a door he can't close. Fear that the Queen's private words will contradict the current palace narrative. Fear that the missing envelope is not just missing, it's damning. And then the twist lands with surgical cruelty. Sophia reveals she has proof of the missing envelope's chain of custody. Not speculation. Not rumour. Proof. The kind that doesn't scream but suffocates. She doesn't even need to raise her voice. The room raises the stakes for her. Because if Sophia can prove who last held the envelope, she can prove who had the opportunity to hide it. And if she can prove that, she can prove the palace did something it can never publicly justify. It kept the late Queen's words from the people who had the right to receive them. The emotional beat hits like a quiet funeral inside a living room. The Queen's grief becomes a moral trial, and suddenly everyone is being measured against her legacy. Sophia isn't just defending paper, she's defending the Queen's dignity from becoming a tool. Rowan isn't just demanding inheritance, he's demanding honesty. Cedric isn't just protecting privacy, he's protecting control. And control looks uglier when it's holding the dead's voice hostage. Sophia's final line is calm enough to sound almost gentle, but it lands like a guillotine. If you don't return them, I will. It isn't a threat of violence, it's a threat of action. of exposure, of refusing to let the institution bury what it finds inconvenient. Cedric hears it, and for a moment, the throne looks less like authority and more like a trap, because he knows what Sophia is capable of when she decides something is sacred. There are ceremonies meant for crowds and ceremonies meant for survival. This one is neither celebrated nor announced. A locked box. A list of seals. A table where trust goes to die. Cedric returns the letters with hands that barely steady not from age, but from consequence. Rowan watches each envelope placed down like a confession, realizing this isn't closure, it's the beginning of a war over what the Queen really meant. It happens with minimal witnesses and maximum symbolism, the kind of private coronation energy the palace reserves for moments it would rather history forget. No applause. No speeches, just envelopes placed carefully, one by one, as if each one carries a different kind of danger. Rowan feels relief and dread collide inside him. Relief that the letters are finally in the room. Dread because once he reads them, he will no longer be able to pretend the past is simple. Cedric's face is controlled, but his control looks strained like a man walking a tightrope over consequences he can't see the bottom of. Then the interruption. Advisors rush in with urgent whispers, another leak is about to drop. The palace doesn't even get to breathe before the outside world starts circling again. Someone wants this moment poisoned. Someone wants the return of the letters framed as guilt or chaos. Cedric doesn't argue. He issues his final instruction, low and absolute: read them alone. It isn't tenderness. It's containment. It's him trying to control the blast radius of what the Queen wrote by isolating the person most affected by it. Sophia stands rigid, controlled, but Rowan notices what others pretend not to see. She is shaken. Not by victory. By what she knows is inside those envelopes. She has read enough to understand the letters aren't simply personal. They are strategic. They are final. They are the Queen reaching beyond her death to shape what happens next. Rowan watches Sophia's restraint and realizes she isn't just scared of scandal, she's scared of truth. And then, the cliffhanger lands in the smallest detail. Rowan notices one envelope's seal is wrong. Not missing wrong. A subtle inconsistency that only someone raised around protocol would recognize instantly. His stomach drops, because wrong seals mean opened seals. Wrong seals mean replaced seals. Wrong seals mean someone touched what was never meant to be touched and thought nobody would notice. Because the moment Sophia threatens action, the palace stops seeing her as family and starts seeing her as a threat. And once Rowan sees the wrong seal, he understands the worst possibility: someone already opened the Queen's truth. The most dangerous secret isn't the one you hide, it's the one you edit. Rowan and Sophia compare the Queen's handwriting to the archive records and realize something is missing. A page. A sentence. A name. Not enough for the public to notice, but enough to change everything. Because the missing piece isn't just personal, it's political. And whoever removed it didn't just steal paper, they stole the Queen's final leverage. Rowan stops reading like an heir and starts reading like an investigator. He traces the catalogue logs the way you trace footsteps after a break-in, and what he finds isn't a clean record, it's a story someone tried to smooth. Gaps where entries should be. Corrected lines that don't match the surrounding handwriting. Dates adjusted by a day, as if a single day doesn't matter except a single day matters when you're tracking custody. Sophia points out the pattern with a cold certainty. This isn't sloppy administration. This is controlled alteration. Someone with access didn't just handle the Queen's letters, they curated them. Sophia recognizes the institutional fingerprints immediately. Because she's lived long enough inside the palace to know what outsiders never see, only certain hands can make certain changes. Only official access can correct an archive without triggering alarms. Only insiders can reseal a letter convincingly enough to fool the casual eye. The wrong seal, Rowan noticed, isn't a mistake. It's a tell. It's the kind of tell that means someone believed the palace would never be audited by its own heir. And that arrogance is what gives them away. Because the greatest protection in monarchy isn't security, it's assumption. The assumption that nobody will dare to look too closely. Then the twist hits like a blade turning in the dark. The missing page doesn't just reveal personal sentiment. It implicates a living power broker, someone still inside the machinery of the crown, someone protected by reputation, titles, and service. Rowan doesn't say the name out loud at first. He doesn't need to. The moment Sophia sees the pattern, her face changes. She understands what that name would do if it surfaced. It would fracture alliances. It would expose deals. It would pull the curtain back on a stability narrative the palace has spent years maintaining. The missing page wasn't removed to spare feelings. It was removed to preserve power. The emotional gut punch is worse than the politics. The Queen anticipated betrayal and wrote about it. Not vaguely, not philosophically. She wrote like a woman who understood exactly how her household would behave once she was no longer there to command it. Her words feel less like memories and more like a trap set for liars, because she knew someone would try to rewrite her. And Rowan feels the grief sharpen into something colder than sadness, rage. Not just because his grandmother was disrespected, but because she was right. She predicted the theft of her voice, and the palace proved her prophetic. Cedric's guilt becomes unavoidable, even if he isn't the thief. He may not have removed the page, but he enabled the system that made removal possible. He allowed the Shadow Court to treat private truth as a governance tool. He let stability become an excuse for interference. And Rowan realizes the most painful truth of all. Sometimes the people who didn't do it are still responsible, because their silence built the room where it could happen. Cedric tried to protect the institution, but the institution used that protection to protect itself from truth. Then the missing page resurfaces in the most poisonous way imaginable, not returned with apology, not delivered with honor, but offered like contraband. A message arrives through a back channel, stripped of warmth and full of intent. The page can be retrieved. For a price. Money, leverage, favors whatever form corruption takes in a palace that pretends it's pure. Rowan understands immediately what this means. The monarchy isn't just dealing with grief and secrets anymore. It's dealing with profiteers who know truth is valuable, because truth is rare. By the end, nobody walks away clean, not Cedric, not Sophia, not even Rowan. Because the Queen's letters don't just reveal secrets, they demand action. Rowan must choose, protect the institution's stability, or honor the Queen's truth even if it burns the palace down. And the monarchy does what it always does when cornered. It offers sacrifice and calls it duty. Rowan confronts the mastermind at last, and the shock isn't that it's a shadowy stranger. It's a respected stability architect, someone celebrated for keeping the realm steady, someone whose reputation is so polished that accusation sounds like madness. The mastermind speaks softly, as if explaining inevitability. The crown survives by shaping history, not being owned by it. Rowan hears the logic and feels the sickness of it. This wasn't a single theft. It was governance by manipulation. Cedric, pushed into truth, finally admits the line that makes the whole story click into place like a lock. We survive by controlling stories. It lands like a confession and an indictment, because it explains why the letters were hoarded, why a page was removed, why privacy was used as camouflage. Sophia's fate hangs in that balance, too elevated for service, sidelined for disobedience, or quietly punished in ways the public will never see. Rowan knows what happens to people who protect truth in palaces. They become inconvenient. And that's why his response isn't only emotional, it's structural. He reforms archival governance, locks down private power, closes the back channels that allowed anyone to touch the Queen's voice without consequence. It won't bring the missing years back. It won't erase the betrayal. But it changes what can happen next. And still, the viral sting arrives, because palaces never stop evolving. 4 leaked words spread like a warning signal, implying the war is adapting, not ending, not the last letter. Rowan reads it and feels the cold certainty settle in. If one page was missing, there may be more. If one truth was sold, more truths may already be priced. And the question that lingers, the one the palace can't answer without exposing itself, is the simplest and most devastating. Did you notice what wasn't returned? And if you think this was the end, look closer, because palaces don't bury secrets, they plant them, waiting for the next generation to inherit the roots. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.